very hyped. Just to give you guys a heads up, today is my birthday. So I have been extra excited actually all week, the whole month. Let me be completely honest. I've been hyped the entire month. But today is my actual birthday, and I'm excited because I'm culminating today. I was doing a series the entire month called 23 Days of Hope, and so it just matched up perfectly with the support groups that Sharea has been doing. I'm in the hosting with the RS Counseling Wellness Center, so it's like, hey, let's do this together. So very excited just to be here today to provide some inspiration to you all. As you can see, I have balloons in the background. I have on my birthday pin. Like, I am all ready to go. So today, well, first let me formally introduce. So I'm Sherry Weary. I am a life coach and an intake coordinator at the RS Counseling and Wellness Center. And we have Sharea. Sharea can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sharea. I'm the executive director at RS Counseling and Wellness Center.
And so yes. And so today we actually want to talk about the topic of contentment and growth. And this topic actually came to mind, or was really personal to me, because I've been thinking about this whole process actually all week. Finding contentment and happiness where I am, even while I'm simultaneously trying to strengthen the areas that I know that I need to grow in. And so finding that balance can be really challenging, because on one hand, contentment can seem like you are being lazy because you don't want to acknowledge the truth of, like, hey, you're not perfect. But I really don't see it that way. I see it as a way to be able to celebrate where you are, because if we're always going after this destination, then you never get a chance to enjoy the journey as well. And all of the experiences that you have is what enables you to be the person you are today. So even though I may not be where I want to be, what I've learned in the past, the mistakes I've made, the achievements that I've had, all of that is what enables me to be here today, and what informs my experience, and what allows me to be able to, one, navigate situations that I encounter, but to also just be light and encouragement to other people as well.
Right. So first off, what'd you do all day today? Let's start there, and then we'll get into some other stuff that we can talk about for support group Rise.
So today has been very, very awesome. Like, my phone is blowing up. I actually made sure that I put it on silent before it started, because between phone calls and text messages and social media notifications, just everyone has been so kind. And it means a lot more to me this year. I always appreciate it every year when people take the time out of their day to acknowledge me on my birthday. Like, it's a holiday for me, but I know it's not necessarily a holiday for everyone else. But it takes a different meaning this year, because I know that right now we are all in unprecedented times as we are experiencing this global pandemic. And so some people may be having a really tough and challenging time. Like, I know individuals who have lost family members and friends in the midst of what's going on. I know individuals who are out of work. And so for them to lay that aside for a moment to acknowledge me on my day has just been amazing. So I haven't been able to respond to everyone. So if you are in this chat and I have not responded to you yet, please know that I will get back to you. So one, I've been taking calls. Two, I was getting my hair taken care of.
That's right. Looking good. Looking good.
Thank you. So, I don't straighten my hair often, one, because it's a whole task and a half. But I wanted to, straighten it, and to trim it, I'll trim that later. So that took up a good chunk of my day. I did a mini workout this morning because I'm like, I wanted to continue this whole fitness journey that I'm on. So I made sure to just get a few minutes in today. I ate lunch. My dad and my mom has called me. My brother called me today. And so they all have made me feel very special. I have a birthday cake. I have already cut it, even though I didn't sing happy birthday yet today. I have a birthday cake, so I've been doing that. And then just preparing for today, for this workshop or webinar that we are doing right now, just thinking about just what I wanted to say to you all as we are all just on this whole journey together. So it's been a pretty good day. What else? So I ate lunch, very basic, nothing. And then to this evening, though, I am going to do something nice and just get takeout. So that has been my days. Oh, and I took pictures. I took some quick pictures.
Of course. I wish we could see the full outfit, but I could see looking all glorious.
You know what? And the only thing with the angle, yeah, I won't. So I'll make sure if you check my social media pages, trust me, I will be flooding, continue to flooding today. But honestly, the biggest thing though, I would say I've just really been in a place of gratitude. So this year, it has significance for me for so many reasons. So first, the fact that people are taking time out of their day in spite of everything that's going on to make sure that I feel loved and appreciated. And I've gotten some awesome messages from people, just for them just being so gracious and talking about the impact that I've had in their lives. Was like, really, me? But then also just thinking about so in 2007, I actually, in August of 2007, I attempted suicide. And so the past few weeks, I've just been thinking about how it's such a difference in my life from then. Like, I had completely lost hope. That's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about hope leading up to my birthday, because I had lost hope. And now to be in a place to have hope, I'm just so thankful that I wasn't successful in that attempt. And I'm so thankful to just that hope allowed me to begin to push through, even when I wasn't sure that things were going to get better and that things were going to change. And so to be alive today, like literally to be alive, just feels great. And I just feel so blessed. My family is doing well. And it's not that life is perfect, but my family is good. My friends are great. I have a really good support just around me. And so even though things may not always be easy, like I still have my challenges. I have things that happen. But just reflecting on where I was in 2007 and where I am now in 2020, it's a position of hope. And so I've just really been thankful to God just for literally for life and just for the ability to be able to pursue what my heart has always desired even before 2007, and to be on that pathway right now it feels really good. So I'm very excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're excited, and I'm glad that obviously the attempt didn't work for multiple reasons and for selfish reasons and friendship and love. So I'm glad. I didn't know you at the time, and I'm so glad that I have been blessed to get you in my life in so many layers. I know that people see it in this way in terms of the professional, we do stuff together and they work really well together, but what they don't know is that I care for you very deeply. So I'm so glad that it didn't work out, so that we could also I could have the relationship I have with you too. So I'm grateful too. I'm grateful to have you. I'm grateful for another year of celebrating. I made cupcakes, but I didn't get to ice in all of them. So I might eat one by the time we're done. I actually made regular size ones for him, for my husband, and I made mini ones for me. So that way I wouldn't go too far into the cupcake world, because they red velvet and they good.
No, I understand. So when they continue that moment, that also, so just to connect that to this whole thing of hope, I'm also very thankful for you as well, because if I had given up and then I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have, been where I am today. Like Sharea has, so let me tell you how I first met Sharea. I was working at a nonprofit where we provided housing to homeless individuals. It was really great work, really great organization. And so Sharea came and she started doing clinical consults with us to allow us to be able to understand what our clients were going through from a clinical perspective, because it was just a lot of trauma. And at that point, I was not as informed, to be completely honest, of the clinical aspect of what was happening with my clients. I just saw the immediate things that was happening, and I was there to try to support them in their goals. And so Sharea came in, really nice, really awesome, but she was so smart. And like it was like a walking history book. Like we would ask her questions, she would give all this deep information. I'm like, okay, I have to get to know this lady outside of these clinical consults. So one day I started following her out to her car.
She was stalking me.
Talking to her, just about extra things, even though she needed to get home. But I was like, I just want some one-on-one time with you. And in one of those conversations, I was talking to her about my whole dream of being an author and publishing a book. So I told her I had written this book. And so she was like, oh, okay, well, where can I purchase it? And so I stopped. I was like, you can't, not yet. She's like, well, you said you finished it, right? I'm like, yeah, it's completely done. She said, so why can't I purchase it? And I was like, well, just... I just haven't done it yet. I had to be honest. I didn't have a good reason. It's just I had finished, right? So this was actually in 2015. 2015. This was early 2015.
Wow. Okay.
So I started writing or finished writing the book in 2012. And so then because I got back to work and everything, because I wrote it while I was actually out of work because I had a back injury. So I was out of work for several months. So I finished writing the book then. Once I went back to work, that book went on the bayside and I was like, okay, I have to focus on work. And so that conversation with Sharea, it really stirred something up in me because while she was very nice and friendly, she also wasn't afraid to give me a hard truth where you're sitting on something for 3 years now, and that's totally not okay. So then I knew, I'm like, okay, I need her to be my mentor. So I waited several months to ask her, but once I did, she said yes. I was so excited. And so that actually started the process of me publishing my book. So 2016, actually on my birthday, April 2016, I published my first book, Walking Through the Pain. Yeah, so today is the 4-year anniversary for that. I've started my business. I got my LLC designation in 2018. So Sharea was part of that process. And so I'm just so thankful for the growth that has happened in my life. And it started off as a professional and mentorship, and it still is that, but I'm thankful in that process that she's also become a dear friend. So, I don't want to start crying,
I'm thankful for you being a good friend. I'm like 4 years. So let's talk about the book a little bit. Like, what was your book about? Because I know, obviously, I've looked at it, but tell us a little bit about your book and how even right now, I think about just how relevant it would be for people who are struggling or have different areas of struggles that they're going through right now. So tell us just a little bit about it.
So it's an inspirational novel. What happens, the main character, Olivia Jones, she has this traumatic experience at the age of 15 years old, and it causes her to lose all hope. And so she ends up questioning not just her surroundings, but also the love and the intention of God, because she blames God for everything that's unfolding in her life. So she's in a cycle of hopelessness and despair because of her own pain, but also because of the pain of those that are surround her. So the book is her journey with trying to find healing and renew that hope. Her hope in herself and also her hope in God.
Okay. And can we tell me where we can buy it? Like, we on this.
Yes, so you can totally not in like business mode right now. I'm really excited, you guys. It's my birthday. But you can purchase it. So it's available in ebook and print format on Amazon.com. You can also go to my website, which is sherrywherry.com. So that's SHERRYWHERRY.com/product. And right now I have a special going on where you can get a copy of the novel and also my 21-day devotional. You can get both for $20. Separately, that would be like $25 and some change plus shipping. But you can actually get that discount where you can get both books for $20, free shipping, today through next Tuesday.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't even know all that was going on. I was just trying to get you to sell your book.
Yeah, that's my gift.
I mean, it's a really good book. It's a good recommendation for someone who's kind of, like you said, struggling through different things, but being able to articulate that struggle in your relationship with faith and hopefulness, and being able to see that there is hope on the other side of even difficulties in life that may not even just be about today, but any parts of our life.
Yes, and the book, it doesn't gloss over the journey of losing hope. Like, there's some very real, honest moments, in that book. And while the story is not my own, I did use the pain from my past to give relevance and to give realness to the whole experience of losing hope and validating the reasons why people lose hope, but also giving some insight as to why you don't want to stay in a position of hopelessness as well. So it's really good.
It is. And when you go on Amazon, if you do check it out, you get to see some feedback from other people who also felt that it was not just really good, but great and inspirational in changing some of their lives. So I think it's a worthwhile experience. I'm glad that you talked to me about it so we can get it out there into the world so someone could actually benefit from it. So it's awesome.
Yes.
So contentment and happiness in a time when there isn't always everything going well for us. And how do we maintain that? So what would you say are like your top 3 ways to maintain your contentment / hope?
So 1, my faith in God. 2, being objective, and then 3,
You
celebrating the
can do
small
both?
things.
Oh my goodness. Like, how about that? Thank you, Jesus.
Yes. So
Right.
all of those, I guess it brings, so my faith is instrumental to literally my very being. So like I would not be here without, with God being there along the way and being my strength even in my weak times. Like he's the foundation of my hope. So that is like paramount. Without my faith, I just wouldn't be here at all. The being objective is really important because I am a person that overanalyzes things, and because I have that creative sense to think of scenarios, which work really well for me writing a book. But I can create like 10 different scenarios from one situation, like, and even go to like worst case scenario times 10. Just thinking about things, just over analyzing it, like, oh, well, what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what if they're thinking that? And so I start getting caught up in a what ifs instead of being objective with looking at what's before me. So like, what has happened? What did the person say, or what have I been able to do? What's in my control and what's not in my control, and being okay with that and being able to stay present in that moment. So being objective and not going too far off in the deep end, I definitely had to remind myself to do that. And then celebrating the small things has been really helpful to me as well along the journey, because I have like these big audacious goals. I definitely have the tendency to get so caught up again in a destination. That's why I can talk about that. Get so caught up in this destination of, for instance, like I want to be married, I want to have children, I want to own a home, I want to have a huge thriving business, I want to make impact, to women just all over the world. And so that's going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And so because I'm not where I want to be, then I forget to celebrate the small things. So for instance, with the book, it's not a bestseller yet. You probably definitely will be, but I can still celebrate the fact, one, that I haven't received negative reviews today, and it's been out for 4 years, with all the people that's read it and that's purchased it. I actually had a time where a stranger walked up to me, and I told her what my name is, and she recognized my name because her son had brought her my book. And I'm like, whoa, that was definitely. And so being able to celebrate where, even though a lot of people don't know who I am, the few people who do know who I am, God has graced me to be able to make impact in a way that he created me to be. And so to celebrate where I am, to celebrate just what I have, because while I don't have everything that I want, I definitely have what I need. And that says a lot right now, especially when you know that people really don't have everything that they need.
Yeah, so when I hear those 3 things: faith, being objective, and gratitude, right? And so that gratefulness of the moment is about being able to identify that I may not have all I need, but I can find the goodness in what I do have. And in this moment, present. And so being objective to me is also a form of like countering your negative thinking, or slowing down your thoughts so that you can put them in order and check yourself, right? So it's like I'm my own little reality check, which is, okay, everything that's going on negative with my scenarios in my head doesn't make it true, right?
Yes.
And why do I have to only pull on the negative? And if I find myself doing so, what can I do differently, right? What could I think differently, or where could I get support to think differently? And then your faith being your foundation, right? Really being able to kind of rely on the fact that you believe in something bigger than yourself. And you know that because of that faith and that and those beliefs, I'm going to be okay at the end of whatever's going on. And that doesn't make it any less difficult, but it makes it a reality that I can be hopeful that this
absolutely,
and that there's opportunity in my distress at this moment, right? I don't know what that is all the time, but eventually I may be able to do that if I'm being objective, right?
Yeah. And being able to be honest about the fact that I'm not where I used to be. So, just being like, okay, I have these goals, I'm trying to get there, but I'm one step closer than what I was yesterday or last month or the year before. And while that step closer may be just so small, it's still a step that I made. And so just acknowledging the effort and acknowledging the attempt, and just knowing that as I continue to take one small step, another small step will come after that.
Mm-hmm. And one step is closer than no steps, right? So
yeah,
I think that's harder for people to grasp, because they want so badly to get to their goal that they can forget that it took people, even when other people have those steps,
Yeah.
or have what they identify as the dream they want. They don't realize that even that person had steps to get there. And they're
Yes.
really like, I was watching something recently, and I'm going to try not to frame too much about what it was, but it was almost like everyone's so interested in the quick way to get there, and the like get rich quick thing where it's like you too can be a millionaire if you do these 8 steps type of thinkings, and the reality is that there is some steps that you could take that will get you to some, I guess, quick opportunities, but that always isn't the case. And I think more times than not, it's a process that requires you to invest time, energy, and really be invested in a way that is about the passion and the impact that you want to put across to others, that I don't think people are willing to really be honest about. It's not going to happen overnight. And even when it looks like it did, it really didn't. Like, I mean, when people are like, oh, she's an overnight success. Well, what about the years that they went to school to train for their acting or their music, or the years before? Like, most people are not overnight success. They actually had something they had to do to invest in their passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So what else want to go back into our tips and our different things for the day? I don't know what we really were talking about hope and contentment, and I think those are good places to stay. Let's talk a little bit more about gratitude. Because I think in my other group, obviously we probably should save this for next week because we'll be streaming live in there next week. But in the other group, what we do is we kind of talk each day about a different form of gratitude: music, listening to music, like just being grateful in the moment, wellness, making sure you take care of yourself. But what are some ways that you maintain your gratitude? Like, how do you keep yourself in a way to identify those good things? Like, what do you do to keep grateful?
I try to say thank you for everything. And so whether it's like, so that's one thing that I had to get in the practice of it. And the more I did it, the more it became like automatic. So, if someone does something for me, then saying thankful, or saying thank you rather. But even if I'm in the room by myself and something happens that I prayed about, I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord, like today, like something minor. It's supposed to rain today and I wanted to go outside to take pictures. And so I saw it getting really cloudy, but just as I was finishing up my hair, I saw the sun come out a little bit. And I was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So from the little things and of course to the big things, like when I pray about the protection of my family and I see that, that they are okay, I'm able to call them and like, okay, they're fine. Then, okay, yeah, that's great too. But being thankful just for the small things, like even I have a cake for my birthday, even though I don't have a lot of people here with me to eat it, still being thankful that I have a birthday cake to celebrate and to be able to say, hey, this is still a reason to be happy. And so for me, I had to get in the habit of just literally saying thank you out loud. Like, it's not just a mental thing. Like, I literally outside, when something good happens, I started forcing myself to say thank you, just saying thank you out loud. And so now it's become more of a habit that helps me to be able to be reminded that even in the midst of those moments when I'm saying thankful, when something happens that throws me off, like about 2 weeks ago now, I got some news that wasn't too good to hear. But even though that news was pretty hard to take about someone that I really cared about, in the midst of that, I still had other good things that were happening. And so I acknowledged my sadness with hearing about the news related to that individual, but then I also made sure that I still looked for the good things that were happening as well.
Okay. Yeah, so similar. I think with me, I started doing like a routine and a practice from even as early in the morning. So it's like the first thing I try to say, the first thing in the morning that I try to say is thank you. I try to make sure I say thank you to people for doing things that they kind of feel like are like not requirements, but I feel like they're not requirements, that they almost are like, well, this is what I just do. But for me, it's an important part of how I exist. And I try to make sure I say it to everyone that I love as much as possible. Similar, I also say, I tell people, and I know sometimes this is a lot for people, because I will tell you I love you. Like, and it'll be like, okay, we just saw each other yesterday. Why are you saying it again? Because you don't know what tomorrow brings, right? So for me, very much or very similar, I try to stay very grateful by being out loud about my thankfulness. And for me, just starting my day each day with, I thank you, Lord, for waking up. Or if my husband happened to be in the bed, because he's usually out the bed, done 5:18 things by the time I get up, because I'm no longer the early person in the relationship. And so if I do see him, I just may even say, good morning, I love you, just so I'm acknowledging that he's important to me, right?
Yeah.
And so being grateful in the moments that sometimes we take for granted has been how I kind of build my gratitude to work to a place where I can find it, right? Because I think if you practice it, then it's more likely for you to see it, right? So then it's like, oh, when something's going wrong, I can't find the good in this. But if you practice it when things aren't going wrong, it's like when something does go wrong, you have a little bit more tendency to kind of be like, oh, this isn't perfect, but, you know,
right.
And that doesn't, and I hope people can see the difference. We're not saying you're not going to still feel pain and all of a sudden you just have this level of happiness that'll just surpass anything that ever happens to you. No, but it does give you a sense of, I can survive these moments and I can be grateful for the moments that were before them or even within them, right? So being able to acknowledge it and create a routine to start practicing. I think most humans, if we start a routine, it usually is how things become more natural to us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really good. It's definitely really good.
So I see we have some people in the group, but I want them to be able to ask questions. So I'm trying to stay in the Facebook group, going back and forth. And so if anybody has any questions or anything about, because we're still a support group today, right? Yes. So we're going to still do our coping techniques and skills. We want to try to make sure we save some time for the ones that we talked about over the past, maybe 4 weeks.
Yes.
Just so that we can reinforce them, because they haven't really changed. It's just really adapting them to whatever you're experiencing or dealing with, right? And so we want to take time for that in a moment, but we wanted to see if anyone has any questions or any area of support that they would need us to give some feedback on at this time. So while we wait on questions, we can talk about some of those coping skills that we are using in this time of quarantine. I don't even know what to call it anymore. I'm kind of like over the word crisis.
Yeah.
Only because I feel like if we stay in that language, then we stay in that feeling. And I think if we can kind of normalize the fact that this is where we are and where we have to be to get better, crisis is no longer like, I think, the best word to use. But so I haven't figured out what is yet, though. So quarantine it is for today. So what are some things that we're doing to cope?
So for me, it's been really important for me to rest, but to also still work on the areas that I know I need improvement. So I haven't been on the extreme where I'm doing 10 million things a day. That's not going to help me be in my most healthy place when it comes to my thoughts, my emotions, my spirit. And so it's been really important for me to take advantage of the fact that I can rest, but then also not go to the extreme where I'm just resting 24/7, because I'm not in a place where I personally need that. So let me take a step back. I had to evaluate where I was and be honest. Like, Sherry, do you need 100% rest where you're not doing anything for 1 or 2 weeks straight? Or do you need to be doing 10 million things? And for me, it was somewhere in the middle where it's like, I'm definitely going to take advantage of this. I'm going to stay home, unless I'm going out for essential needs or things that, that need to be done. But at the same token, I'm also still going to make some progress on things that I want to do too, because I know that on the other side of this, once everything, goes back to normal, and that we're allowed to move around freely, is that I do want to look back and say that I did accomplish some things. And so sometimes life just gets so busy. So I'm taking advantage of this fact that, okay, small little things that I, kept putting off that didn't really matter. I've been taking the time to do that, but I've also been planning for my future as well, as far as things that I want to accomplish. So taking some time to really sit and think about, where do I want to be, and thinking about and being honest about what I'm proud of in the past, but also where I need to improve too. And so it's like, that's where I came up with the whole contentment and growth, where I can still be happy with where I am and thankful, but also know that I can strive from something more too. Mm-hmm. So that's what's been helpful for me, is the resting, but then still making small little goals and making progress towards those goals.
Yeah, and so I'm on the other extreme. Like, I wish I could rest for full days and 4 weeks. Not because I still have really good balance in the sense that I try to still make sure I take care of myself and self-care. but just from the perspective that my work didn't allow me to do that, right? So being able to acknowledge that and acknowledge that where you are is acceptable, right? So for me, my work didn't allow me to say, take off and not do anything, or not, or to even just reflect on it, right? So for my work, I had to keep moving and keep providing in order to make sure that the business continues. And so being able to do that and still find time for myself, being able to do that and set boundaries with work, life in an all home setting, right? Because what I've found, and I don't know if everyone else has the same feeling, is that the lines can easily be blurred when you're working from home in terms of when to begin work, when to stop work, when to move, that kind of stuff. So for me, it's personally like important for me for me to set boundaries with myself and with my workspace, and when I end the job, quote unquote, that I need to then be not working at all. And so, it was my goal to get an office for all these reasons, right? So that way I wouldn't be working from home and confusing the settings. And so for me, it was important to really separate them in a way that still honors that I'm working from home, but I still need those boundaries. And I had to acknowledge that if I let it could get back to where I'm working, instead of a 5 to 6 hour day, I'm working 12 hours easily, right? And so being able to tell myself, well, if you only have 8 clients that day, that's the 8 hours you're working. You don't need to do 8 hours and then 10 other things in those times that you have free. So being able to acknowledge it, but then set boundaries on myself. Just because a setting change doesn't mean that I need to change how much work I'm doing in this new setting at home. And so like reflective, listening to myself, and then I finally took my one day off. I had been working literally since this quarantine had started, and I was like, enough, you know better than this. Mm-hmm. This isn't who you are. You need balance. You know how you work and how successful you are at maintaining your health. If you keep going this way, you won't be doing that. So taking that time and really reflecting and acknowledging where you are. And productivity doesn't equate to healthy. Like I'm so sick of people thinking that if I'm productive, that means somehow I'm like the healthiest person in the world. When in reality, productivity could also be a distraction of you not wanting to resolve or deal with issues. So so please stop making or shaming people for not being as productive in terms of solving solutions to every problem in their life in this brief time of what was a crisis and still now a long-term quarantine. Like, I think we could all do this differently, but we all don't have to shame each other if we're not doing it and coming out of here like with the best author, a bestseller, 518 more businesses. Like, that's not the only thing that you can come out of this. You could come out of it with peace of mind.
Yes.
You could come out of it with rest and a spirit that is at peace. You could come out of this with other things that don't have to do with being a boss, quote unquote. So being able to find that and acknowledging it is important. All right, so what else are we doing to cope? I apologize. Someone is texting me, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't an emergency.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So keeping in contact with friends. So I'm in a couple of different chat groups, and we talk about some of everything. And so that's been helpful, just being able to know like what's going on with other people and to talk about, like, some of my friends are married with children, so to hear funny stories about their kids, that's pretty cool. But to also to support each other too, again, just everyone is having different experiences, some that are good, some that are not so great. And so having a group of friends to be able to vent to laugh with, to talk with, that's been really helpful too, because it's a reminder that I'm not in this by myself. With us literally being home and not, for those except for the essential workers, for those of us who are non-essential workers, we're not seeing the people that we used to see every day. And so you're literally just seeing the people in your household. And if you live by yourself, it's just you. And so it can be so easy to think that you are alone and that you're in this by yourself. But having those chat groups has been a really helpful reminder that I'm not in this by myself. Even though I don't physically see the people, I'm seeing them in words, or we've done Zoom meetings. So that's been really cool too.
And enjoying each other's company, right? Like, this isn't like a plea for you to have to be interactive and go to every virtual meeting or virtual hangout that you've seen, but then making sure that you're not isolating and stealing quality time that you would have gotten from work and getting it somewhere else, making sure that you still get what you need to be social, because we are social human beings. And we also need it for our brains to maintain a level of maturity and movement. So you got to talk to people. You have to not just be in your own head and your own solutions and your own, like, because then you have no real feedback, which can become really negative. So.
Absolutely. And I've stepped outside of my comfort zone where I've been part of chat groups that I didn't know everyone. And so like there was the one that Sharea and I, we were both in for Good Friday for the virtual group. Like I didn't know everyone that was in there, but we laughed literally the entire time. Like it was so great. And then there was more of a, I guess you can call it informational professional one that I did, I think that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I saw advertisement about it on Instagram and it was a topic that interests me. So I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. Right now I was like, I don't know any of the people that's going to be in there, but the topic is related to something that I'm passionate about. So why not go and do it? And that was a really great experience too. And so met some, women who really have a lot of insight about that topic when it comes to really just women empowerment and protecting women. And it was talking about domestic violence and sex trafficking, so pretty serious topics. But it was just assuring to know that there's other people who are concerned about this and who are doing work to make sure that it's being done. So just having that connection. And I think now, because of how great that Zoom meeting went, I think there is a plan to meet at least like quarterly now. For it. So there's some new connections that can even come out of the fact that yes, you're in your home, but you can still meet new people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this time is it's easy to get isolated if you allow yourself to, and also you can be isolated and still be around your own family, right? So I think we have this assumption that because you are living with someone, that automatically means that you are connected to them. And what I'm learning just in my own work and just with hearing people's stories is that that's not always the case. And they can be very alone in what could feel like to us an environment overly populated with people, right? Your entire family's there, but that doesn't mean that you don't still feel alone or isolated in it. So I think it's important to make sure that if you're not getting what you need just in your home, that you search for it. And opportunities are there, even if you don't know people, right? So getting into some of these groups where you don't know people, but you can talk to them, right? It's okay to reach out to even additional support like therapy if you need it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Most definitely. So I don't think that I think now's the time to actually make sure your mental health is just as valuable as your physical health, right? And so as we try to be productive, this could be also an opportunity for us to be reflective. And reflective meaning that we might need additional support in this time, or even it might have even been before this time, and now we have the opportunity to do it, right?
Yes.
So we got being around people, making sure you, I guess, take care of yourself mentally and not don't shame yourself for not being productive by the standards of others, right? Setting limits. I think cutting back on possibly some of the negative news.
Absolutely.
Negative social media. Like I was gonna say news, but I'm like sometimes even going on Facebook or Instagram could be like a conspiracy theories dream. Like it could be overwhelming to hear what not to do when you didn't know you were doing it because you're doing it because the man making you do it. Like
yeah, it's a lot. There's definitely some times where I post where I want to post and then I just log out. Because and it's not that I don't care about other people's perspective or how they feel about what's going on. I just know that in that moment it's gonna make me not be in my place of peace. So
and sometimes so I have in this time unfollowed people. I may have not unfriended you depending on your relationship to me, but I have unfollowed just because I realized that the intensity of their negativity bothers me. And I don't want or have the space for anything in this additional. Like, I really don't. And so, sorry, you're unfollowed. Yeah. And I may follow you again. I don't know, but I just feel like these times are really already tough enough to be overwhelmed with negativity.
Absolutely. And then I've been very intentional about feeding positive messages into myself. So I take the time to be informed about what's going on. I don't watch news. I just have different sites that I'll check, at the end of the night or maybe first thing in the morning, like, okay, what do I need to know? What's going on with my city, with my state, what new regulations are in place? And then that's it. But then I make sure that after I get the information that I need to have, that then I feed myself with positive things. So whether it's listening to music that I really like, inspirational messages or sermons, watching funny videos.
Oh yeah,
on my favorite TV show. Yeah, so I make sure to do something that's going to allow me to maintain that place of peace, or even just a quick call to one of my friends, or send a silly text message. Just making sure that I do something that reignites the positivity as well, and that place of peace and assurance with knowing that, yes, even though there are certain things that are really scary in a sense, I can still rest in assurance with knowing that I don't have to be afraid. I can be aware, but not be afraid.
Yeah, which is where it starts to border into past anxiety. So it starts impacting your mental health, right? So one of the things that I've been doing with a few of my younger clients, especially my newer ones, I have a few who are musicians. So I am blessed to have like new music every week by one of them. And I'm like, oh, this is great, because he literally is a musician. And so one of the things that we've been doing is actually every week we create a playlist, or we're creating a playlist. So every week we have to come up with a song that is upbeat, inspiring, and gets you in a good mood as soon as you hear it. And so some of those songs I actually keep with me, some of them not so much, because it is what I did say, they're young people and I am getting older, so I can only tolerate by so much. But at the end of the day, I allow it for us to be able to realize that we have to have a go-to list as well, right? So I have go-to sermons that I listen to on YouTube. I have go-to like good morning inspirational videos, or like if I need to hear something to motivate me to do business related work, I have certain things that I will go to that are already in a playlist. And if I need to hear something about, if I'm having a hard time in relationship with friends, then I go to one that'll remind me that friendships are valuable and important, right? So having your list and go-to list that you can always kind of revisit that are positive when you're feeling like negative is an important thing that I feel like if we can all, it's almost like having a happiness list, right? Of things that make you happy so that you can immediately do them when you start seeing yourself shifting to that negative side. All right, what else?
Doing so, being just silly. So I can make my own self laugh, so I will do that. Like I'll just break out dancing or singing some song in the wrong key on purpose. There's something so like just having those silly moments. So like for me, because I love to laugh, and so when I'm around people, I'm usually one cracking a joke trying to get people to laugh.
Yes, she is.
Like seriously. And even if no one laughs, I just laugh myself. So I make sure to still like those things that are really like the essence of my personality, still living that out. So if something funny happens, like I'll crack up laughing even though it's just me. Or just do something
right,
silly.
Why not? Like laugh out loud, right? Like do it for real. Like not just send it to me in text, right? Laugh for real. Like
yes, absolutely.
Right? I agree with that one a lot. Like making sure that you find the space for humor, and even being okay with laughing at yourself sometimes when you're by yourself and alone.
Yes.
Like I'm like the most clumsiest person in the world. People that don't know that, but I probably trip up the stairs every day. And literally, my husband's not too happy with it because he's like, "You're gonna be so bruised up." But every time I do it, I laugh and I get back up and start moving to the next thing I'm doing. It's not funny to everyone else, but it's funny to me. It's just something that I've been kind of good at since I was a very little girl. So. So you need to find those moments to laugh and to really acknowledge that laughter is a good tool in moments of crisis too.
Yeah. Another thing I've been doing is still finding ways to help. So one, being part of this support series, this virtual support. So we've been doing this for a month now. And it's been helpful just to be able to know that even though I don't have all the answers, that at least I'm making an effort to provide a little aspect of my story or some information to be able to give hope to someone else or some type of encouragement. So this has been really good just to know that I'm not I'm concerned about me, but I'm also making an attempt to be concerned about others in ways that I can control. And so it doesn't take, much from me to just to sit in front of a computer for an hour and just talk. So that's been helpful. And then I've also been volunteering at my church's food pantry. And so even though that's a little bit more riskier because that involves me being around people who are in need, it's also been very encouraging and inspiring to know that I'm there just to give hope to someone else. And what's been interesting is that, one, the numbers have been increasing every week. And so it's a little heartbreaking to see that there's so many more people now that are in this position where they need extra help just getting the basic necessity of food. But they still come and they're very thankful and they're so nice. They'll come and they'll crack jokes and they'll talk with you and they'll remember your face, after they've seen you a few times. And so that's been really good too. And of course, we're abiding by the guidelines. So we have face masks and gloves. We keep everyone, 6 feet apart and things of that nature to protect everyone. But we're still there just to provide just literally just the basic needs someone needs, but just a smiling face and to talk to people too. So that's been really helpful going and do that every week because, one, it gets me out the house. But two, it allows me to be able to give back in a way that I know I can't go out and buy groceries for my entire community. I pray that I'm able to do that one day where, I can just say, hey, everybody go to the grocery store at this address and I got you for the day. But until I'm able to do that, what I can do is just volunteer at my church's food pantry and just pass out the things that we have. And so that's been really helpful too, is just finding ways to give back to other people.
Okay. So, I think, are you going to try to read that one?
Yes, I saw that. So I'm going to read that while you make your comment.
Okay. Because I was going to say one of the things, and just in general, I think for giving, even though we might not all be able to give the same in terms of time or even income at this point, finding ways to be able to support people can help you feel good, right? And so knowing, and I'm going to stress this, only if you have the emotional space to do so. Don't feel obligated to go out and share and serve if you're not emotionally in a space where you can even take care of yourself and you don't feel good, and that's okay, right? So it's okay to not have the perfect emotion to be able to serve. However, if you're interested and want to be able to help others during this time, there's other ways that you can also do it. There's hotlines that you can volunteer for. I know that I just recently was flushing through with one of my clients who's going to volunteer on an eating disorder hotline. And all they're doing literally is texting resources from the internet. And they're going to be trained on that. So being able to find what you can do to help may even be something you can translate to after this time. I know for myself, there is a few places in Camden that one of my clients is attached to, that when I heard some of the stories, I was like, I don't have everything perfect right now, but I also just felt pulled to help. If you feel pulled to help, it's okay to help on your level. And so for me, it was just sending some chips. I know that's not, I'm not saving lives with potato chips, but I'm helping where I can to make sure that somebody has something extra. So being okay with those levels of what is best at the level you are right now. And then if you can't, that is okay as well. There's no obligation to do this a perfect way. And I hope that we could all get some level of contentment with knowing that being where you are is sometimes enough. You don't have to be overly happy. You don't have to be overly positive or responsive to things. You can literally just be okay with the emotion you are at that moment, and that be enough for that time. So for me, when my heart got pulled in that area, but then the next day I'm like, I got too much stuff to do. I can't answer these extra calls, right? That becomes part of the balance and accepting that it's okay and no perfect way to do this.
Yeah, so you actually touched a little bit on the comment that we got in here in the chat with what you said, because they were talking about how sometimes they feel like it's not always real or sincere when people are talking about positivity and being happy all the time. They feel like it's not giving room for you to really express how you feel. So I didn't go into a lot of details earlier when I mentioned the person I received the bad news about. What happened is actually someone passed away who was very dear to me. And while she was almost 90 years old and had lived a very full life, it was just really hard just losing her, because I said we had a very close relationship. She was like a mother or grandmother to me. And so in that moment, whenever I think about it, like the past 2 weeks, whenever I think about her, I cry. Like I allow myself to sit and cry, even though overall I'm in a place of peace and contentment. I still allow myself to feel those moments, and I do. I sit there crying. I think about the conversations I miss having with her and seeing her and being able to visit her. And so for me, I had to learn how to really acknowledge my feelings. So part of my whole healing process and regaining my hope since 2007 is that I had bottled things up. Like I stopped allowing myself to feel, because I was so hurt by just different things that had happened in my life. I was tired of feeling hurt, so I stopped being honest about what I was feeling. And so I didn't talk to anybody what was going on. I didn't tell people how I was feeling. And so had I been successful, everyone would have been completely caught off guard. Like, what? She's always laughing and talking with us and checking on everyone else. And so I had to learn this balance of being able to fully allow myself to feel the impact of any emotion when things happen. Like, I'm human, so it's okay for me to be angry. It's okay for me to be sad. It's okay for me to cry. It's okay for me to feel like abandoned or not feel understood. And so, but once I give myself the space to really feel that and to be honest with what I'm feeling, I then reach out to steer me back into this. Yes, this happened, but I still don't want to stay in that spot, because I know if I stay there too long, I know what worst case scenario is for me. And so I've gotten a whole lot better at being able to have these feelings of sadness or anger or whatever, but then being able to say, okay, I felt that, but now let me go back to my hope. And so it's not that I deny that I feel those feelings. It's just that I know that there's more to my life than just those sad moments. And so that's what allows me to be still happy overall and to have that peace and, to be able to navigate just life.
And I think there is I'm going to summarize it without reading it, because you've read it all the way through. So I think there's a way to be able to maintain positivity without faking it. Right. And I think that becomes that clear line between this current wave of like life coach / personal development. Positivity is the only way to survive the world. Like this kind of world that we're in now, where it says that the only emotion that's worthy of being celebrated is one that looks like you are whole and happy at all times. And the reality is that none of us, I don't care how perfect you are ever going to be at a position to say that every moment is exactly as happy as the next, right? And so that would be first a phony way to be. But the first thing with acknowledging is also being able to not shame yourself for having those emotions that don't look like happiness or positivity, right? So for me, like, yes, you acknowledge it, but then also don't then guilt yourself if you feel a negative emotion, because that negative emotion is part of being human. What do I do with this negative emotion is where I can take an action, not shaming myself because I have it, right? And then when a person, because I think it's very similar to what I said earlier about the productivity, where it's like, people are like, you got to be productive in this time, and, come out with a novel / new business / $1 million at the end of all of this, right? I think that becomes this immediate gratification, or this need to kind of feel like you're going to fulfill something that will actually later on shame you if you don't complete it. I think it's unrealistic. And I think it's unrealistic for you to portray positivity and never give any other emotions, right? And so like most people who know me is that I have a range of emotions and I express them openly, and it makes people uncomfortable sometimes, right? Because I will express emotions that will make you be like, damn, I thought she was happy, right? And I'm like, no, today I am sad, I want to cry, and I don't care what the world feels like, right? This is not the easiest, right? So, and I joke about it, but this isn't the easiest season for me in general right now, right? And so from who knows when this entire couple months, right, is not the easiest season. And so some days when people ask me how I'm doing, I say, do you want the real? And if they do, because if my real friends will accept that, and most of them will, right, I'll tell them, I'm like, I just don't even feel like it today. Today I feel sad. I feel like I miss my mother. I miss my sister. I miss the moments. I miss eating what I want with her. I mean, like little things that might seem or big things to me, little things to other people, but I acknowledge it, and I acknowledge it out loud so that people can also be, so emotions can be normalized. And so to me, when I think about acknowledging it, you also want to make sure that you are not shaming yourself for having them. Like, so acknowledge, but don't shame yourself. Feel okay with the fact that you are human, and in the reality of our existence, we are going to have all types of emotions. And when people are only one, I'm actually more concerned, because I also feel like that regulation of your emotions, that you're not actually being responsive, can cause additional stress later, right? So being positive and hiding all of your other emotions, like you were saying earlier, can lead to you bottling it up and feeling like you have no outlet. And then your other outlet becomes harming yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Through physical actions of trying to hurt yourself, eating, not eating healthy and kind of killing yourself that way, not isolating yourself from others. There's so many things that when we don't express our emotions, we actually start to do other things to self-harm. And so for me, I feel like acknowledge, don't shame yourself. And then if people are uncomfortable, let them be. Like, that's what I've learned over my last 5 years, that I can't control how you view my emotions. I got to just feel them. And if it means pushes you away from me because I'm too much for you, I'm okay with that too. Like, I just have to be too much for you, but I'm making my way through these emotions. And so I would say, don't shame yourself as you acknowledge them, because I feel like Sherry hit it on the nail. Make sure you acknowledge them. Don't hide them. Don't pretend that they're not real, because they are. But then also don't shame yourself in the process, or let anyone else shame you. Because if somebody else is shaming you about your emotions, then that's their immaturity around how emotions work. And that's not healthy for them. So, or for you. So I hope we answered that one.
Yeah, and another thing too, that I had to also deal with, like when I was going through my issues and just not really acknowledging the depth of my pain, and also just insecurities that I had, when I saw someone who had what I didn't, it used to annoy me too. So this is me being very transparent. So in my spaces, when I lack confidence, someone who's confident annoys me, and they're just kind of like, oh, like that can't be real, you know, because I'm coming from my standpoint of I know all the insecurities I'm dealing with. So how can someone, you know, be on the opposite end of that and be so confident? And so sometimes for me, what frustrates me or what annoys me is a sign of what I need to work on within myself. And so, you know, now if I see, you know, someone else who is very confident, I'm like, oh, yes, go ahead, girl. Yes, girl, you're doing it, right?
Right.
You know,
I get so excited when I open up certain stuff, and people, like somebody got one of the PPP loans. I don't know if anybody knows about that from the business angle, but one of the girls got it in our group. And that was the first person I saw who got it. I was so excited, like it was me. Like I was getting the money. I was like, you better go. Like, you get excited when it becomes, and there's really no competition of any emotion, right? Good.
Absolutely. And so just being able to get to a place of, one, to stop denying everything that I was feeling, even the bad emotions, but then to also go through the process of healing. And that took a few years for me. Like, it was a really long process for me to get to the place of really healing from everything. And so that also allowed me to be able to see the sincerity in other people's emotions and appreciate it, as opposed to being like, oh, like they doing the most, like you're doing too much. But like, now I can just celebrate. Yeah, that I can celebrate them and be happy. But it really was just a sign that I had another depth of work that I just needed to do, and I had to get to the root. Like, what is the root of what I'm feeling right now? Because annoyance is not it. Like, that's just the surface. Like, what is it? And going beyond the annoyance, I was able to see it was another issue from my past that I hadn't dealt with, that I needed to do. And once I was able to work through the issue, I've been to counseling too, you know, with over the years. Like, I've been, you know, to sessions. I've done work with licensed therapists. I've also done spiritual counseling as well. And so both of those are really instrumental in helping me to peel back those layers and to dig deep to find out what's really happening. And once I was able to do that, it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it, where it's just, I'm able to have just a different level of peace and celebration for other people and be happy for people and be like, yes, we just gonna be extra together.
And you go through stages, right? So sometimes you are able to acknowledge, reflect, and be really honest about your emotions. Other times you're not, because that area may not be as vulnerable for you yet. And so being able to even know that we all have spaces and areas where we may need to do a little bit more work to feel vulnerable enough to share that emotion. Like I never thought I would ever share any of the emotions around grief, because I didn't think I would ever feel the level that I felt. But it became important for me to acknowledge it, not for just myself, but other people's space to heal. Like, because I'm like, if I'm feeling this way and quote unquote have all these quote unquote great skills, how are people without skills feeling and able to survive this because of how deeply it hurts, right? So being able to acknowledge that you might not be in the vulnerable enough space yet in that one area to feel that, but that doesn't mean at some point you won't.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a few other coping things that I wanted to make sure we hit on. We said friends, staying connected, making sure we kind of counter our negative thinking and objectivity. We talked about setting boundaries with the media and limiting like how much of the negative we can take in. I'm going to always go back to also stay hydrated. In this time of wine drinking, like, on a random Tuesday, I need y'all to also hydrate with some water, like, and just balance. Try to make sure that you are trying to eat some good meals within those extra meals, because I feel like we cannot shame people right now with what they're eating exactly, because there's just so much missing in even our grocery stores, but also we're not going out as frequently, so we're not moving as much. Just making sure that you don't shame yourself because you happen to not be exactly as active as you were before, but just remind yourself that you want to keep active, go outside when you can, right? But still use all of the protective factors. I've learned to love my backyard more than I've ever loved anything. Even just to walk out and just step out to get some fresh air and then come back in helps to kind of just take a deep breath. Walking to the mailbox has become like, oh, who's going to do it? Because I want to go out to get it. So you just find ways to get out without violating any of the precautions when you can. And then mindfulness activities, making sure that you take a moment to be mindful, whatever that means for you. For me, it's at 6 o'clock. I'm usually doing some level of activity related to dance and movement and anything that kind of makes me feel like I'm not thinking or caring for anyone else but myself. And coloring is another one. I actually pulled out a new coloring book yesterday, so I didn't already colored the last one till it's done. So just finding ways to be mindful and present without all the other things that are going on. You can do mindfulness eating, cooking, cleaning. You can do a bunch of different mindfulness activities, practicing some meditation, prayer, making sure that you are spending time with your faith and your beliefs so that you can gain and maintain hope. I'm trying to think of all the things, like these are all the things that we talked about in the last 4 weeks, me trying to summarize them. And am I hitting all of them? I think
we talked about getting adequate sleep. Sure that you're keeping up that, even if you're going to bed a little later, make sure you sleep in a little bit. Well, if you have the freedom to do that, but if not, making sure you're still getting your necessary hours of sleep.
And trying to make sure you have a routine for sleep if you are struggling with it, so that way you can get up in the morning if you have to work, right? So for example, we talked about taking baths, making sure that you're relaxing before bed, taking the television time down as close as possible to your time that you're going to sleep. So you may turn off the TV a little earlier so that you can get rest all the way through. Take the phone, leave it in another room if you have to, but kind of avoiding the phone as your option to keep looking. And that light, no matter how good you are, is still impacting your brain and also possibly your sleep. So just kind of rest as you can. The phone will be there, the people will be there, and all the stories on social media will be there later. So rest. I think we are hitting all of them, right? Body scan and deep breathing. I'm not going to go too much into that. We went over that the first week in terms of how to do it and what to do. So just taking care of yourself in this time and remembering that there is no wrong way to be in this time, that we are all trying to figure this out each week, and we learn something different each day, it seems like, but we also know that we can get through this together. Be sensible, don't shame yourself, and just try to keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to say, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Like, so we have so many April birthdays this month that I see that we have one also in the Zoom meeting with us.
Yes, Kendra.
Happy birthday soon, Kendra.
Happy birthday to you early. Happy birthday, Kendra.
That's right. And I'm so glad that Sherry wanted to do this on her birthday. If you were here with us earlier, we had some laughs and some jokes about what she's doing, but I am always blessed to have Sherry in my life. I'm always excited to see her and talk with her, because when the cameras are off, we're probably laughing just as hard. I know that it doesn't, you could not imagine that you laugh that much, but we really do. And that's why I just love her. And I'm so glad that she gave her life a second chance, and I got a chance to meet you.
Yes, I'm so thankful. And then with everyone, so shout out to everyone in our group chat. Thank you for coming. I don't want to mess up your name, so that's the only reason why I'm not going to attempt. But thank you so much for providing your comments and wishing me happy birthday and participating. Really appreciate that. And shout out to everyone else on Facebook too. So thank you all for being part of this, and just know you're not alone. You know, because ultimately that's really what this is about. I'm so glad that Sharea has been doing this. On behalf of the RS Counseling and Wellness Center, which is the best counseling center in the whole world. No.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I do want to let you guys, ladies, know that we are going to be starting a women's self-compassion and higher self-esteem group. That one will be a closed group, which means that it's paid. And you can register on our Facebook page, or if you're on Instagram, you can look into the link, and I think it's the second one. It says self-compassion and improve higher self-esteem. Our therapist, Rebecca, will be the person running it. So it will be a little bit more clinical and about giving you tools to increase your confidence. And no, it's actually for all women. So it's for any women. It's a women's only group. So that one is going to be Tuesdays at 12 o'clock and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. So it's actually all women. And I hope that if you are interested, that you give yourself an opportunity to go to one of those links. I'm probably going to put it in all of my groups at one point, if I haven't already, just to let you know that we are going to start that next week. This group will still be running for a free one. We kind of just drop in, give coping skills, laugh a lot, talk a lot, and answer questions about how we can support you. And so we will see you again next week, Thursday. I believe 4 o'clock is still the same time, because that's probably the easiest thing to do, which is to keep it all at the same time. So 4 o'clock next week. Sounds good to you?
Yes, that works for me.
Sounds good to me. Continue to celebrate well. I love you. I love you. Wait, I should run and get the cupcake, but I'm not going to do that because
well, I'm glad, because I was just thinking that I did not cut the piece of cake for me to have here on camera yet.
I forgot the candle, but I do have cupcakes. I've made enough so that I can have cupcakes for today and on the 28th. So we will celebrate again. I will make, I made them really tiny, trying to monitor this nonsense that I'm eating called snacks. I love you to life, darling. And you guys, everyone, please be well. Again, we will see you next Thursday at 4 p.m. Talk to you then.
Bye, everyone. Love you too, Kendra.